violence in religion in general is there's a pastor that lives with my family from Nigeria. He has a wife and kid back home, but he came here and has been living here and living with us since I was probably in like 6th grade or something. And he was pretty sexually abusive to me for maybe like from 6th grade to when I graduated and went to college. And I just remember how many times it was a big thing about like he's a man of God, so he would never do that to you, and you can't tarnish his image. He's gonna lose his whole congregation, like, you know, and like, just I remember never telling anyone and never telling my parents about it. So many times that was tied into the fact that he is a pastor, and this is so against what he should be doing. Like, he's not just a regular creepy uncle, which you know we all have, but like, it's like you're a creepy uncle, but you're a pastor of a church with like a wife and kids and a whole congregation that follows you, and I can't ruin your image like that. And I mean, you know, now it's just so interesting to see and be like how strongly religion and the religion that my parents like enforced on me, where it's like you can't talk badly about this person who's in this high place of power regardless of what they do, and how they just get away with so much, I guess. The Catholic Church, if you watch a movie, you've heard about it. You watch SVU, you've heard about the Catholic Church and all their drama, and it's like there are several problems, and so many times we've seen it just get covered up. We've seen people just. I've actually decided to step down from my position rather than address the problem. Yep. Oh, he's a religious figure. He's anointed by God. You can't tell him nothing. And I'm like, that's dumb. He's a person who went to school, mind you, the seminary. I went to school too. Oh, you know, with all like the sexual abuse allegations going on, we just felt like it would be safer to not have girls in a position where they could be a temptation to a priest. A temptation? Wow. And my dad was like, yeah, and that makes sense, you know, sometimes these little girls will be tempting, you know, they can, and I was like, it's on us. It's on us. I'm gonna throw up. I really looked at my dad and I was like, this is before I was raped by someone that he knew. So I remember looking at him and just being like, the fact that you just said that, I will never, ever come to you for protection. You're the last person I will come to. Yeah, I'm wearing a little dress and sneakers and it was cute or whatever. And my dad, as I'm walking out the door, is like, you know, if you go out there and a man rapes you, I'm not gonna help you.
I think it's very lazy and disingenuous from the part of the sheikhs, because there's a lot of women, me being a woman who wears the hijab, that, you know, that gets harassed, that gets like disrespected, or people always have dumb shit to say like out in the street. But when that happens, nobody wants to stick up for us. Nobody wants to check up on us. Nobody wants to offer like solutions or resources on the fact that we wear the hijab in America and the hate and the disrespect and the harm that comes to us. But you want to talk about how it should be longer, how I should cover up for you to not look at me. Like, that's just fucking mind-blowing to me. The disrespect of like how you think I should be, but you don't want to do anything for me when I'm out there. Kudos, my guy. Mainly because she's wearing a hijab and nobody, nothing, no shook, nothing. Like, nobody wants to say anything or help her or like this, like, you know, make sure that that's not happening or step up. But the fact that I'm gonna wear like a hijab and my hair is showing, now you want to talk to me about that. The fact that like I don't have like long sleeves, now it's an issue. Now you want to tell me how I'm not respecting Ilahi or how I'm breaking the rules in our religion. Now you have something to say. But when I'm being like physically harmed or verbally or any of the traumas that are happening to me, don't know where to be found. Like, that's just mad disrespectful.
Like, I had friends growing up, and so I would always try to like play with the boys and like play basketball or just hang out with them and chill with them in like a public setting, right? And it would always be me who would get reprimanded. It was always be me. He's like, like, why are you hanging out with the boys? Like, are you trying to become a boy? Are you trying to become a man? And it's like, no, I'm just trying to have fun.
From my experience, they didn't really create many like things for us to do outside of like learning, while for the men they had like sports, things like that. And I feel like once they did try to create like activities for the women and like swimming, all these like different activities outside of learning at the masjid, we were uninterested because it wasn't consistent and it wasn't things that we were like things that we had wanted to do. Tuesdays at 6, what type of unconventional ass time is that? Like, yeah. But and then the boys would have like the weekends, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So it's like, you know what I mean? You could tell like it was an afterthought. Like, we were an afterthought.
When you get married, you have to have sex within that first night, right?
Oh yeah, that's
And
what
I looked at her and I was like, where did you hear that from? She said, my ma'alim taught me. And I was like, what else does he teach you? And like, she just started spurring out all of these misogynistic and messed up things that are not a part of Islam. And I'm over here like, how do you
allow that to
start, how do you fix that when it's already starting to be programmed into her head? How do you fix that? I'm only with her for a few hours and she's already had 15 years of these thoughts already implemented in her head.
After the Somali Me Too movement and all the stuff that was coming out, and also girls talking about their past experiences with the ma'alins and so on, scurry of like ma'alins having meetings behind closed doors all over, all the Somali ma'alins and sheikhs in Minnesota, right? And they're having these meetings, and a lot of the times these meetings are only men. So like there's no space for women to come in. Like, first of all, let's not get into that. And second, they have—
let's get into it. How are you going to discuss sexual assault without women? How are the perpetrators of these issues going to hold closed door meetings without women who actually experience these things? Where is their input? Because you want to know what needs to be done, you go ask the people this is happening to.
Exactly.
Sorry.
No, exactly.
Like, it just makes me so angry. Like,
it makes me very angry too. But moving forward, they were having these closed door meetings, and then they finally had a big like meeting with all the with specific cherry-picked people, and a few of them were women too. So there was women allowed in this big meeting, right? Because this meeting had
very few, right?
Very few. And then I believe it was 2 regular women who went, and when they went into the space, they were not the ones that were cherry-picked. I don't even know how they found out about it. But as soon as they came into the space, everyone was looking at them like, who are you and why are you here? Who invited you here? You know what I'm saying? And it's kind of hard, bro. Like, when it's people like that, like trying to create these little changes, and mind you, as time went on, they came up with this whole sexual assault and like what is sexual harassment, this, that, and they brought it to the sheikhs and the ma'alins that were the regular sheikhs and ma'alins of all the masjids around Minnesota. They all the sheikhs and ma'alins were like, oh my god, so you're telling me I can't touch my students? Is that what you're telling me? And they were all mad. They basically said, fuck this shit. We're not listening to you guys, okay? You're not taking my rights as a ma'alin away from me. Not everything is, why I make this into a big deal? Not everything is sexual assault. Obviously, we're not gonna have sex with our students. What? Like, there's so much wrong with that. There's like a million different things wrong with that. Well, with what just happened there.
first of all, how these niggas get hired?
Can we talk about that?
Y'all just be like walking down the street and then being like, yo, you're hired.
Bro,
you know,
I swear,
alhamdulillah, you know how to read that? You know Surah Al-Fatiha? You're hired.
I swear, all these men need to know in order to be a ma'alin is the Quran.
Yep, just
They
memorization.
just need to, not
They
even
need
the
to be
Quran.
hafiz. That's it.
Not
That's your only
not even the translation or what it means.
Yeah.
Just the Arabic words. Like, that's
Yep.
all they need to know in order to be a ma'alim. And you, parents, you guys are trusting these men with your kids. You guys are trusting these men, these pedophiles in disguise with the little imamah with your kids. All they know is how to memorize some words. The greatest words, obviously.
Yeah, I was gonna say, which is great.
The greatest words,
Which
obviously.
is great, but
But
there's obviously more to the religion than just memorization.
exactly.
And when you have people, not to go off on a tangent, when you have people who have memorized the words of God, but don't know what it is that they memorized,
Exactly.
how can they put those words into effect? How do you then live? How do you live with Islam as your truth? How? Because you don't know what it is you memorized.
And even the ones that do know a little bit, they know it in the lens of a man. So everything is curated towards them, and they're only going to teach what benefits them at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? So like, even the ones who are knowledgeable,
They have
they're
agendas.
exactly, have agendas, and they're not, what's the word? There's no manners. Remember, you can have all the knowledge in the world, but if you're arrogant with it, you're nothing. You're
have no
in
akhlaq.
Allah's eyes, you're nothing, like literally. But that man over there, that woman over there, that has manners, that has love and compassion towards the next person, that person is 10 times more worthy than you are. So we need to stop we need to stop holding these men just because they have these titles all the way up here when they're abusing it, bro.
And there's this whole culture, because that's what you just said. You said like, there's this culture that if somebody's your ma'alim, somebody's a sheikh, and you hear something that they said that is incorrect, you almost can't say something. Say something. Say something.
Yes.
Because it's like, I know so many friends who are misinformed. And that's not me saying like I know things or I have all this wisdom. Like I know nothing in the grand scheme of things.
Me too, bro.
I have so much learning that I need to do.
Students for life.
Students for life. But I hear so many peers say like a lot of women who have been taught by men, those peers, they're saying things about their rights that are not true, that these ma'alins have programmed into their minds that like they can't do this or they can't say this. And usually it's in relation to like a husband.
Oh my goodness.
Like they're teaching these women that they have no rights.
I personally have never been physically touched like that, because anytime a man would try to beat me, I had anger issues when I was younger and I would actually physically try to fight them. But I would have peers of mine who would try and, well, I would see crying in the bathroom or calling me in the middle of the night because they just had a panic attack, or they're in a situation where they need someone to come pick them up, or certain things like that. I have had peers talk to me about their experiences with ma'alins actually cornering them and manipulating them into believing that this is the religion, that I am your pathway to God.
And through that
they all have ended up in really terrible situations.
So like when you're younger, you're, you know, a teenager, that's when I used to go to Duxi, and then like the ma'alims were older than us, so hell yeah, they were cute and like cool, and we like were like, oh my god, like vibing for their attention because like they're older and like, you know, cooler than us. So I, you know, we would like, you know, as young girls, we'd just be like, oh man, I wish the ma'alim like blah blah blah, or I would like this ma'alim blah blah blah. But that's like a childish thing to do. Like, you know, you're getting older, you're noticing the opposite gender, and you are, you know, are like looking for ways to make moves. And I think that's just how like curiosity like happens, you know. That's how like you come to be an adult. But I know a lot of sheikhs that have abused that relationship, and knowing that they should know better and that they are the ones who have the power and have, you know, the responsibility of not overstepping or harassing or like, you know, abusing kids that they have been given the parents have given the trust to be with these ma'alims.
Majority of the men that we did see as like figures, like higher figures of like the Somali community, men we saw like as like the people who were keeping us on our deen, people who were like the mufti mink of the Somali community, were actually the men who behind the scenes were taking advantage of a lot of our friends that were afraid to speak up.
Masajids and churches and every like religious
Religious
institution, like young boys are also affected.
That was my point.
The
And the
fact that-
Catholic Church is notorious for that.
Exactly. The fact that
The Catholic Church is notorious
Yes.
for
Yes.
molesting little boys
Mhm.
to the point where statistically it is so much more likely for a little boy to be molested by a
Yeah.
priest than a girl.
No, that-
Especially because homosexuality is so taboo to Catholics. You know what I mean? The most of my like childhood, I was an altar server, and I stopped doing it because, you know, the younger kids come up and they want to do it, and my sister really wanted to do it super bad. And one of these little racist priests that came up in the church that we just left had just made this executive decision to no longer allow girls to be altar servers, which the Pope allows girls to be altar servers. Like, so it was like, what makes you think that that's okay? Oh, it's okay, honey. You won't understand until you're older. How about we have this conversation with your dad? Maybe he can explain to you. I'm like, bro, I'm 17. Like, I speak good, proper English. What won't I understand? Because you're not spitting to me. I don't hear nothing. You're not saying nothing that's making sense right now. We used to not have Black presidents. At some point, it's not like it was illegal. It just didn't happen yet. You know what I mean? And then we did. And it's like, it still wasn't illegal. It just, he happens to be the first one to do it. Like, there used to not be girls who did it, not because it was against the rules, but it just didn't happen. And then it did. So why are you trying to go back to the old way? Like, That's very make America great again to me.
Like, we don't have a healthy relationship with sex.
Oh, we
Yeah.
don't.
I don't like
That's a whole topic in and of itself.
I think that really feeds
And it's not
into
even
sexual
Islam,
assault.
it's Somali culture.
But
it's
it-
culture.
it's Somali culture, American culture, like everywhere
Yeah,
you
it
go,
is
people have a like
Very unhealthy relationship
like
with sex.
and it's always like the
It's
man
always
is like
shameful
the
for
taker
women.
and the woman is the giver.
yeah.
And like the fact
Why is
that
it something that they take?
exactly, like I think one of the solutions that we were talking about, I think it would be very helpful for masajid, since the masajid is the
speak
house of
about
Ilahi, where people like learn and get together and do things.
That's
you know,
what
like
I had.
that would be a beautiful thing for all of us to see. And from the jump, like when you're young, you get to know like what body parts are. You get older, you get to know what touches are.
I didn't
You
have
get
that
older.
experience
No,
until
but
I had a
I'm-
woman ma'alim.
As my mother, know that you went through something like this and know how it made you feel, and tell me to shut up when I tell you that I'm going through the same thing.
I feel like the reason they do that is because their mothers did the same thing to them, so they're just
Spit.
going. It's
A
just like
cycle.
a cycle.
And they learn to think that that is normal,
Okay.
and so they should accept it. And so they teach us
to accept
rather
it.
than stand up for something, it's gonna happen to you anyway.
Regardless,
So you
yeah.
need to learn how to handle yourself, how to get over it, and how to move on. You
How
feel
to
me?
either prevent it or how to move on. There's no
Right.
such thing as like
How about we go
holding
to the
them accountable.
source and stop
Stop it.
him from being an asshole.
And I feel like
Like-
they feel like we can't do that, so they automatically make us the problem
I
because
feel
that's
like-
that's easier for them to deal with us than to deal with them.
Then they're teaching us that we are helpless, and so we can only handle what we can handle, which is our reaction to these things. And so we go on feeling we're helpless. So when our daughters are born, we know nothing else except to tell them, like,
We're
I'm sorry, but
helpless.
you're helpless.
Mhm.
And it's gonna keep going.
It's going to.
When
I
at the end of the
think-
day, we could help it by when our moms become moms, teaching their sons not to do things that'll make their daughters feel helpless.
I think for me, like it goes beyond like knowing that your daughters are helpless because you're helpless. I think as a society, we've collectively agreed that, you know, women are shit. They're like, we've all agreed, like they're the lesser. So like everybody should just always attain, like everybody should respect a male, and we should always like that is like the superior sex of all of them.
Yeah.
And then that's who we need to like appease, and basically everybody is shit after that.
So a lot of times growing up, like we all know, a lot of these ma'alins try to slide into these little girls' DMs, literally or figuratively, by trying to be like, yo, I'm trying to marry you. You know what I'm saying? And these are grown 40-plus-year-old men talking to 13-year-old girls, talking about, I want to marry you. And a lot of times these ma'alins end up grooming these girls. So they're children, and they're being manipulated into thinking, I'm ma'alin's favorite. You know? I'm smarter than the rest of the girls. He sees my worth, this and that. But really, he's grooming you to become his wife.
I've seen sheikhs check me out, which is inappropriate. That'd be no, which is extremely inappropriate. And the fact that I'm inside it, like, why are you checking me out inside it?
Duxie, bro, I love Duxie. I love my friends, I love the ma'alins, I love everything.
Where'd
But
you
this, Duxie.
Oh,
In the
right.
area, yeah.
Oh, in the area.
In the area.
In the area.
One of my favorite lady mentors would like bring me into a room with two other ma'alins, and they're cornering a little 15-year-old girl, okay? And they're saying to me, so this ma'alin right here, which I knew for like 10 plus years, okay, is interested in marrying. And I'm like, my mom's not there. There's no adult with me, okay? I'm by myself. I'm thinking it's something else. They're talking about, so yeah, do you want to marry him? And I'm like,
Because
this-
a joke.
no, it's serious. They're dead ass serious, bro. And I'm like, it's kind of sad because I'm used to it. It's a normal thing. So I'm like laughing it off, like, no, what the hell? And then they're like, oh, okay, how about this one? And I'm like, and they're all saying in front of these are grown ass people, bro.
Yeah.
30-year-old plus people. And I'm like, what is this? What is going on here? First of all, you as a woman, I trusted you. Okay, I trusted you. And these other two guys, which one was a tormentor, first of all? What? This is so weird. I felt so weird, you guys. And I just left. I said, you know what? Fuck this. I just left. And I'm like, what? Like, I was confused. I told my mom, and she's like, and then like, you know, somebody mothers, like they're not gonna make it into a big deal because they've been, the same shit happened to them. They're used to it. You know what I'm saying? It's not fair to my other favorite man. It's not fair to my peers. It's not fair to me. It's not fair to anyone else who's going through stuff like this, where one person can take away something so beautiful and amazing. You know what I'm saying? It's really messed up.
These guys that have these titles that are related to God, and they get away with anything.
Yeah. And I know, like, I have heard so many stories from people in the Muslim community. Like, I'm just like,
why do ma'alins have the need to pinch the inner thighs of little girls? Like, that's just the weirdest thing ever.
You know
like,
what?
here are my hands.
I never went through that because
I never went through that either.
Shout out to Ma'alin Taqi. Okay, he was I got taught at home. And then he eventually went to Duxi and we followed him. So I was safeguarded by him, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, mashallah.
Because he just continued being my teacher.
Mashallah.
Even when he taught a different age group, just because of that rapport that we had. So alhamdulillah, so grateful for him. I'm so grateful that growing up, my mom just explained what was appropriate touching and what wasn't. And she explained to me the importance of just feeling comfortable in talking to her if somebody did touch me in a way that was inappropriate. I think you can definitely meet children where they are at the age that they are and teach them consent, teach them what inappropriate touching are. Kids should know like body parts and these concepts. They need to, because I think that's the only way that we can really have discussions about these things, and kids can kind of have an understanding of what is wrong and what isn't.
Exactly. And I think that's a good segue into solutions, right? When kids understand that this you should not be touching me over here, if there is stuff put into place where, like colleges, you know, like all those signs where if you've been sexually assaulted, call this number. Like, maybe not to that level, but something along the lines of that, so that kids can hold these predators and pedophiles accountable, and like go to somebody, hopefully maybe even a woman that's just there for that and other like social work type reasons.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, social work type reasons where the kids can go to her and be like, this has happened, and the kids need to know that she's available. It needs to not be some secret, like like having it in the room, and maybe even her going to the classes, teaching
100%.
teaching about sexual assault in these duxis, and then they know her and they know I can go to her if anything happens. And if anything happens, not only in duxi but elsewhere, I have someone to talk to. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
it's not about religion. It's not about race. It's not about sex, gender. It's not about anything. It's about humanity. As human beings, once we have compassion for each other, once we love each other, we won't have no problems. If I love you and you are offended by me calling you a certain word, why would I do that? Why would I keep doing it when I love you? If I love you and I profiled you and killed you, did I really love you? Why would I do that if I love you? If I love you, would I rape you? No. It's just that simple. If we love each other, none of this would be a conversation.
Bringing people along the right path, I think there's a way that you do that. And I think that's something people in our community don't understand. I think they want to yell. I think they want to be extremely disrespectful when they're trying to point these things out. And that's not the way of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That was not his way. You know what I'm saying? And those tactics push people away from the religion. I know a lot of those tactics have been used on me personally. And it's just kind of made me resent going to the masjid and just having discussions about Islam outside of the masjid. That's the first thing I think about non-judgment. I think of a space that is inclusive. I think that it's almost become a problem that all of these masajids are just filled with one ethnicity. But I don't know if we're ready for that either. I think that
one qabil, okay?
Right?
One qabil, okay?
Yeah. So, yeah, I just think that, you know, I think a masjid is also a place for people to grow. And I don't think that that can happen when everybody looks the same and when everyone comes from the same background.
Because then people allow bullshit. People allow cultural bullshit to slide.
100%.
Yeah, and I feel like if I was some random from a different ethnicity and I see this, I'm like, yo, I'm gonna hold you accountable. And you're gonna be like, whoa, I can't act like this because There's the outsider here.
Yeah. And I think that's the way that an outsider becomes a friend. I think that also creates, it's just a whole other topic, but I think that's how we become more humanistic by becoming closer to people who are different. I also think of, we already touched on it, but gender diversity in these positions. I want to see women ma'alins. I want to see women who are put in places and positions of like
Power.
teaching.
How about
right?
power? We
power.
never thought about that.
Yeah.
Like to put on like the board of the masjid so that she can dictate where some of this money goes to. Do you know what I'm
100%.
saying? Like having women only leading lectures in front of men, obviously is what we're trying to get to, and leading classes, but also having her the behind the scenes, where the money is going, what programs are being placed, the title, a part of the title to the building itself. Do you know what I'm saying? There needs to be like women from in every corner.
And it almost makes me think, back up. Maybe you can tell me this because it's not something I even know.
Yeah.
How do sheikhs and how do these ma'alins, like who is in charge of like the hiring process? Because maybe the people should be.
Ooh.
Because it's like, I would like to have a say in who the sheikh is.
Yeah.
I want to know who I'm trusting.
Yeah.
Like all of this, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And the other thing
I want
is,
to know that they're qualified.
the other thing is, like, as we didn't even mention this earlier, but like background check. Who knows if this guy was a pedophile in a different state? Like background check. Solutions, any other solutions? Other than like obviously having women teachers, women in leadership positions.
Yes.
And then also the whole education on your body, consent, body parts, and sexual harassment and assaults, as well as having a space for social workers and counselors or therapists. What other solutions? Like, what is a utopia religious center look like to you?
The biggest thing that comes up in my mind is one that's judgment free. I mean, of course, you want to be able to have accountability in a masjid, and you want to be able to guide people, right? We have a religion that advocates for.
Also, having a woman presence in the classroom is extremely important, because it's not just the man in there by himself with all these little, sometimes 5-year-olds. Do you know what I'm saying? And there's nobody else there, and the door is closed. Like,
and that just makes me sad too, because it's like, it's sad that we even need to have another person.
Yeah.
Like, I know that's something people are pushing for. Lakin, there are male preschool teachers who I know sometimes there's an assistant, but sometimes there's not. I mean, it's obviously really easy to talk about issues. I think what's a lot more courageous and what really takes bravery is coming up with solutions. We like to highlight the fact that this is a community collective, these conversations, these issues. So it's really about just coming together as a community, as humans, to really just try and like solve these issues, figure out what's not working, replace it with what is working. I think at the end of the day, even if these issues do not affect you, it's all about being a good person and speaking up when you see wrong. You guys, if you see somebody at a mosque, at a church, who says something extremely judgmental, maybe you see a man or a woman who is making a pass at somebody inappropriately, say something, call it out. Make people understand that that is not okay. People do things because they're made to feel like they can.
They get a pass from society.
Yeah.
So we gotta do better.
Do better.
Do better.
Any quick last words you guys want to say?
Men are trash.
Any quick messages?
But they can be better.
They could be better.
They choose not to.
We definitely need
We
y'all
need
in this
women.
fight.
Y'all could
We
be
need
better.
y'all
Y'all
in
not
this fight.
We need women in positions of power, especially in our religious centers, because we base everything we do off of our morals. And it's when you don't have good morals that you do bad things, and those morals start and really grow their foundation in our religious centers, because that's what we're taught to believe wholeheartedly.
Women who don't baby men. Okay.
Right.
Stop the nasanu.
With a lot of what we spoke about today in context to gender-related discrimination, I mean, it was just women that came on here today. Brilliant, lovely ladies who came on.
Love you guys.
Obviously, we're women. We're talking about these things, but this is not our conversation.
It's not just us.
It's not. The issue lies with men, and you guys need to start talking about this. It's really you guys that need to figure out like a solution. I'm tired of having to figure out what's not working because we're not the ones that are perpetuating these behaviors and these patterns. I'm not saying women don't rape. They do.
Yes.
Right? But we're talking about in these spaces, it's getting perpetuated by men.
Yes.
Like men are the ones who are just dominating these spaces that are filling it with misogyny, sexism, and like, I'm just tired.
Yeah.
You guys need to figure out how you're fixing this. Do better.
Do better.
Do better.
Do better.
Like and subscribe below.
Like and
Oh
subscribe.
yeah, definitely like and
Yes,
subscribe,
like
hit that like button.
Notification bell. Notification
Right.
bell. Hit that notification bell.
Please comment if there's anything else you guys want us to discuss because we will be back.
Comment
And we'll be
below
doing
why
a
you don't
giveaway.
think men are trash.
I'm
if you
sorry,
don't
I'm
think men are
sorry.
trash.
She said
And
giveaway.
this isn't to bash men. This genuinely is not to bash men. We're just saying y'all need to step up. That's it.
Step up to the plate.
Yeah. And hell yeah, it's to bash you because you don't know. Like you don't like. I don't understand how you don't know.
Bro.
How do
Honestly,
you not know?
Y'all know.
To put it in
Well, they
really
know
simple
what's up.
terms, like,
They know what's up.
in my head, it's so simple. Man up.
I don't know, but we gotta turn this off.
We good?
Yeah, I think so.
That's fine.
Whew.